wait, shit, I'm eating already. Wait.
I have like ideas. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Proskatz. I'm David, and I am joined by my commentary expert, Pacific Rim extraordinaire, and friend of the channel, and person on the channel, Prosper.
Hello.
And today we're reviewing, if you hadn't guessed already, one of my favorite movies, which happens to be Pacific Rim. Not a cinematic masterpiece in like a way that it's going to win Oscars or something, but definitely a movie that basically did exactly what it was trying to do and did it very well. So for those of you not familiar, Prosper and I are reviewing Pacific Rim, and honestly, where to begin with this movie? um, it was directed by Guillermo del Toro, a great director who is well known for his love of monsters in the popular media. And boy, does this movie have monsters. And really, if you think about it, Pacific Rim is essentially giant robots versus Godzilla-like portal aliens from a different dimension, but actually with a surprisingly solid script and pretty interesting characters for an action movie. Something that I really like about this movie is that pretty much none of the characters have like a normal name. Like for example, the main character is named Raleigh, which is like that's not like super uncommon. But then his brother is named Yancey, which I think is hilarious. Apologize to those named Yancey. And there's also characters named Stacker Pentecost or Striker Pentecost, and Hercules Hansen. So you could see the writers were having fun with this. They weren't taking it too seriously, but also they didn't really succumb to like the wackiness of the whole concept too much, where it ends up being like a bad version of a Marvel movie or something like, or just a bad Marvel movie. Um, so even though this is an action movie, something I really liked about this was kind of some of the plot elements, and I'm actually going to focus on that for a movie that I think a lot of people know has really good action. It's really fun. It's a great time, and I've seen it probably 4 or 5 times, and I've really liked it every single time, and noticed new things every time. So basically, the plot, we follow a young fella named Raleigh, who was a Jaeger pilot. Jaegers are these big robots, and I believe Jaeger's like German for something. And basically, humanity's created these robots to fight these big monsters called kaiju, which is like Japanese for monster or something. And they've been coming through the dimension or a rift in the Pacific Ocean, not through a dimension, through a hole in a dimension, which allows them to come from a different dimension into ours. Riley has a brother, Yancey, who, spoiler alert, does not get too much screen time. I like the actor though; I think he's really cool. And Riley is a super confident guy, and he's unpredictable, which is kind of stated out loud in the movie. He's wholehearted. He really does the right thing whenever he can, um, even if that's like not the most rational thing to do. And that's something to like admire about him, but also, it's not a perfect character trait as the same. And this unfortunately plays out, which when it indirectly results in the death of his brother Yancey at the beginning of the movie, which is really sad. He probably survives, but his kind of morale is really defeated. Obviously, his brother just died. And a big part of this that makes it even worse for him is that he was in the drift when his brother died. And the drift is essentially how pilots for Jaegers work together and how they're able to drive it because it takes more than one person's mental capacity and they drift. So essentially, they're inside each other's minds. So when his brother died, he also felt that essentially. Well, he didn't like feel it, but he saw what he was feeling at the time he died, and that must be pretty traumatizing for him. And I thought this was really like the soul of the plot of the movie, because although it's like a really kind of stupid monsters versus robots movie, I really do like the complicated or semi-complicated themes and characters. I'm not going to summarize the whole plot because that would take forever and would be pretty much unnecessary, and you can just watch the movie to see that. Um, So instead, I'm gonna look into this aspect of the movie, which I really liked. So Riley's brother dies, and eventually, after working on a wall for a few years, he gets back into the Jaeger program, and he meets this girl who's one of the, I guess, directors of the Jaeger program. She works on the mech repairs, and he meets this girl named Mako, and there's definitely something there, but we're not quite sure what it is. It could be romantic, it could be like friendship, partnership, one of those things. And well, it's pretty clear that Mako likes Rally, but we're unsure if he feels the same way. So it's kind of interesting that way. Um, so usually in like rom-coms or something, it's probably the other way around. I don't know. I don't watch that many rom-coms, but that's what I assume. And it's a little flip on that dynamic. And they inevitably end up piloting the Jaeger together because she's super talented. And she like beats all the other contestant, or not the contestants, all the other prospects for being Rowley's co-pilot, because obviously his brother died and he needs a replacement who's drift compatible or whatever. And during the test run, which they do inside this big facility in Hong Kong, uh, Mako like freaks out, and she like relives a childhood trauma, and she's unable to control herself in the rift, and almost like blows up the whole facility as a result. But even though this was extremely dangerous, uh, Raleigh sees that she also has, trauma. He had trauma with his brother dying, and she has trauma. Essentially, what the memory was uh, she was a child, and the kaiju attacked, and she was about to die, and then she was saved by the uh, Pentecost, Striker Pentecost, which is just a funny name. But yeah, it can be assumed that her like parents died in the attack, so obviously that was very difficult for you. Now, you would think that this would be a stumbling block because you essentially have two people with extreme traumatic experiences uh, with the kaiju, but they have to go into a machine that only works if both pilots are mentally stable and in sync. And if they get lost in the drift, like, that could happen where Mako almost blew up the facility. So in the end, they actually did a really good job as co-pilots because they connected over their trauma through the drift and worked really well together. Obviously, they win in the end with a little help and sacrifice from the other characters. But I think that the most interesting scene, from a plot perspective, is at the end of the movie when both of the ejection pods surface from the depths of the ocean. And Mako and Rowley both sit on top of their pods after this amazing victory for humanity, and you think they're gonna kiss, but they don't. And now I'm not sure if this was an actor preference, um, a situational preference, or just to keep the idea open that they might like each other or they might not, and that's for the audience to decide. I thought this was a really interesting decision. Now, I'm not against kissing. That would be kind of weird. But uh, I really like just this scene because I think it's like probably one of the only action movie scenes where like the two like main characters, if they're like you know romantically compatible, uh, don't end up kissing at the end. But the way I chose to interpret the scene is that they were both like mentally exhausted, not only from this battle that they've had to do, but from the entire like reign of the kaiju, which had taken people away from them and caused them so much trauma. And they hug, they don't like do nothing. But it's like more of an embrace of relief, happiness, and rather than like romantic love for each other. Because even if there is something there, what they had just done in the movie is really greater than what they had done for each other. It's like sometimes you see in these action movies where they just saved humanity, and then they're like, oh wait, we actually finally like each other. I think that's like kind of ridiculous. So like it actually makes a little more sense that they would be like relieved for whole of humanity instead of being like, I love you. Like kissing. And then, so I thought that was really fun, or not funny, but like a really interesting decision. And I think it's kind of beautiful in a way because, like, even if there is something there, they're recognizing, what they really won was for other people, for the people they had lost, and for all humanity. And I know it's really like a really stupid robots versus monsters movie, but I thought that was interesting. I really like that aspect of it. Now, to the action, right? I really like how slow and cumbersome the robots are. Like they walk through, they're like, boom, boom, doo 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 doo. Theme song's great. This isn't like a novel point. Like people have talked about this all the time. But I think that like how slow they were like really helps visualize how gigantic they are. And that made the action like really like believable and amazing. Uh, and as I rewatched this movie for probably like the fourth time, there really wasn't as much action as I remembered, but there's definitely value in scarcity. And I thought the plot was really solid enough to carry the rest of this film. I really like all the characters in this movie, especially Ron Perlman's character, Hannibal Chow, who's probably like the wackiest character, which is saying something considering all the things. Um, and yeah, I would, if you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Great action, great characters, very solid script, lots of fun. If you haven't seen Pacific Rim before and you like action movies, you're really missing out here. Um, and I mean, there's like the second movie, it's not as good. And they really didn't, it wasn't the same director. Um, and the animated series is like, okay. But apparently they're coming out with a third one, and Guillermo del Toro, who is the director for this, is directing it again. Um, Theme song is amazing. Listen to the soundtrack a little before this. It's actually really good. And yeah, I really love this movie. It's something that I like. I don't know. I cherish close to my heart. It's one of my favorite action movies. Because it's not trying to like be like this amazing like plot. Like it understands that it's like wacky. Which I love Marvel, but I think sometimes they take themselves like a little too seriously. And I think this movie with like the names of the people and like the concept, like they understand what they're doing, and they executed it really well. And yeah, I mean, even if you don't like action, I mean, that's fair. But I really love this movie, and I would recommend it to pretty much anyone, to be honest. Yeah. Also, I really like the speech that Idris Elba's character, he plays Striker Pentecost, and he gives a really great speech, which is amazing. Uh, it's people compare it to the Independence Day one. I don't know if it's good as that, but it's kind of like it's silly, but it's like good. Um, anyway, I think that does it for the second episode of the new series on our channel, Mukbang Movie Review. Um, Prosper, did you have anything you wanted to say regarding this movie?
No, I thought it was a pretty good movie overall. Yeah, I don't have too much to add. I don't know why they didn't kiss at the end. I would have kissed Charlie Hunnam, but
That's fair. I would have too, actually.
yeah,
It's a good looking guy. Good looking guy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really looked into that much, but that's just how I interpret it. I like to interpret it like as a sentimental, like, we just saved the world thing. It's like, maybe that's maybe that's more relieving than whatever we kindled in like 5 days of meeting each other or something like that.
That's a
Um,
fair point.
y- yeah, yeah. But anyway, um, thank you for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this. I hope this was the best video you've ever watched. But if not, there's always next week.
Dislike,
Um,
unsubscribe.
yeah, please unsubscribe and dislike the video and comment hate comments in the comment section below.
uh,
Yeah. Um, yeah, Prosper, what'd you eat today?
I had it was like chickpea tomato soup with naan bread,
Nice.
but
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
I think the coconut milk was expired, so kind of just
Oh,
left it's like not. Yeah,
so we may
I'm
this
gonna
video may have given you food poisoning.
yeah, I'm gonna have food poisoning is I think what's gonna happen. But
Well, then you'll have plenty of downtime and you can watch Pacific Rim again.
again
Probably
for the
more than once.
for the 100th time.
For the 100. Wow. Maybe I should have been eating this episode. I don't know.
Eh, we we can both eat next episode. What-
Just eat for 20 minutes.
well, I was gonna say we're gonna have friend of the podcast, Ben Tanai on.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
yes.
to
That should be fun.
talk about Spider-Man Quantumania.
I'm just gonna mute because I haven't seen it yet.
There you go.
Anyway, join us next week. We're gonna not watch. We're gonna review Spider-Man Quantumania
Spider-Man.
with Willem Dafoe and Peter Parker. And Ben Tanai, friend of the podcast and friend of both of us, actually, will be reviewing that
Yeah,
probably by himself. And then
yeah.
Prosper and I will probably eat. So,
That's the
anyway,
format. I think Paul Rudd's in
hope
it
you'll.
too.
I don't know, maybe.
Maybe the one guy.
Yeah.
That one guy with the face.
All right, I think we're done here.
You can try the what do you call it? The Henry Cavill like fist reload, like however he did it. I don't know.
I'll do like
And I'll do the like the kaiju.